All right, everybody, and welcome to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. And today, I do not have on a sign. Well, actually, I do. If you'll pull this up here, you'll see that I still have on my safety sign. But it's Christmas. Huh?
Safety sign is 12-6.
Yeah, it's clearance sign. But I just wanted to show everybody I got my Grinch shirt on today because I am kind of celebrating. I'm in the spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, it's time, right? I mean, if it's time, now's the time.
Dave, you said I'm going to try showing everybody. I think just by looking at you, they can see that you have your Grinch shirt on today.
Oh.
That is big and bold, buddy.
Hey, it's not bad. I like it.
I know.
It's either coming or going.
There you go.
You're getting the frown.
Drive safe, Dave, twice.
Where's mine?
You don't. Oh, yeah. We were going to see. Remember, we were going to look to see if they were any good, and actually, they're very light. I want to let you look at it after this because I want you to see it. It's not a very thick shirt.
It's okay.
Yeah, I know, but we'll talk about it. But I tried them out. I kind of like them. Kind of dig it.
Think Boss Man would be okay with me wearing the Grinch year round?
No. Oh. And by the way, I don't like you wearing the Grinch at all. This is my shirt.
Ooh.
You're going to have to go get your own design shirt. Some of them were funny. They had like hundreds.
The Grinchiest.
This was the Grinchiest. They had several different ones, but I just want to let you know. Also,
I literally played the Grinch in a play.
What? Seriously?
Yes.
Seriously?
Yes.
In a play?
In a play. For my church a few years ago.
That's a church play?
Yes.
The Grinch? Y'all didn't do like the birth of Jesus
What
or
child
anything like
is this,
that?
or,
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Y'all did Y'all did Whoville?
Number one, I didn't get to pick the play. But number two, it was like several stories combined that ended up with the birth of Jesus. It did not make sense, but it doesn't matter. Pastor asked me to play, so I played.
Yeah, didn't make sense. Doesn't matter.
Just throw in a Grinch. It's a fan favorite. Throw in the Jesus story.
We'll do a mashup.
There was
Let's
Polar.
just do a mashup.
It was a mashup. It was Polar Express. It was the Grinch. It was Charlie Brown.
Yeah. Didn't see that
and
one
Baby Jesus.
Yeah, and Baby Jesus.
And Baby Jesus.
And Baby Jesus literally at the end.
And Baby Jesus at the end. Hey.
He just didn't have a Ricky
You know what?
Bobby
Now I'm wanting to see the play.
No.
Now I'm wanting to try to figure out exactly how
I will let you see that play when I get to see you wrestling the inflatable. Yeah.
Ooh, you'll probably have to take that snowman down.
Already down, gentlemen. I've already got the warning lights already went off. I've already had to draw them down. They will not be coming up until the wind has passed on Saturday.
They have been exhausted, is what you're saying.
And you know what? They'll be up, though, all the way until the 13th, the
January, Boxer Day.
The what?
12 Boxer. Is that Boxer Day, January 13th?
No. That's the Three Kings, Festival of the Three Kings.
Oh. But you got to go two extra
German
days
tradition.
because they're down.
They're down.
Extend
Man
the run. Yeah.
Man
Snowman down.
All right, so talking about this wind that we got coming, let's talk about the Arctic blast that's fixing to hit the United States, and it already has in some areas. It's going to make travel difficult. I want everybody to be aware. Listen, this has several features to it that it doesn't include just the snow in the background. There's going to be a lot of areas that's just going to be cold.
Yep.
And windy.
Cold and windy.
And listen, this wind's not a game. It is not going to be for the faint of heart. This is going to be cold wind. You're going to talk about wind chill factors dropping bad. I mean, you're going to feel they're going to be bad, and it'll be difficult for anybody out there driving with high-profile vehicles, and that includes both campers, trucks, anybody out there with a high-profile vehicle has got to be aware that we're talking about 60-mile-an-hour gusts, aren't we?
Yes. And over a large part of the central United States it's shifting east. And so, I mean, got to be very, very aware of it. 60, 70-mile-an-hour gusts in place, to be honest. And, I mean, it's moving pretty fast, but if you are driving any of the high-profile vehicles, be aware of it.
Yeah, pull over for a little bit. It won't take long for the wind to get through. They're talking about in the areas maybe 4 or 5 hours of intense wind, and it's gone.
Yeah, it's going to blow through.
It's going to, I mean, it's just like steamrolling across the country. They're talking about starting in Denver tomorrow and then blowing all the way through into the East Coast by Friday. And I'm telling you, that's pretty fast.
That's pretty fast. But that cold front is coming down. I mean, that cold front reaches all the way down into Monterrey, Mexico. Is going to be below freezing, I think, Friday or Saturday.
What is that?
That's a long way south is what that is. I mean, and so, I mean, like you said, you couple that with the winds. Wind chill is a factor. It does not take long to get frostbite, get windburn or anything like that. So please pay attention, dress warmly, take it seriously.
The other thing I wanted to make mention of is that we talk about truck parking, and we're always going to highlight people and that always try to change things. And Virginia rest areas that have been shuttered for a while, they are reopening them with more truck parking. So they're trying to get more truck parking, and they have not only, what's nice about them is there is a facility there. So this is not like just a big space in the road. What it is, and look, they're trying to create it, design it, and build it to where it will house many, many more trucks out there on the road. And I know, and it matters.
Oh,
and I know people don't go, well, it's only 25 spaces. Let me tell you, 25 spaces on this side of the road that weren't there before and 25 spaces on the other side of the road that weren't there before matters. It matters a big deal to the guys out there on the road driving. So if we can get 50 parking spaces along the freeways everywhere in this country and we do things like this, it's going to make a difference.
Yes, it will. And we talk about not driving fatigued or not driving tired. And, 50 more spaces gives us a little more opportunity to get off when we need to and get that rest when we need to, not when we can find parking.
Absolutely. Listen, those spaces are going to create, they'll be used.
Yeah.
They'll be used. Don't think that they won't be used. And it's nice to see that those kinds of things are getting taken care of. And we're always going to tout it when we find more truck parking. Kudos to those are on 81 that they're going to do these. So they're reopening, some of these, and they're going to create more spaces. Look, the government needs to get involved. State governments need to get involved. Communities need to get involved. And let me tell you, we really need to consider, and as we do this, and out there on the open highways is one place, but where do these guys deliver? These guys deliver in the metropolitan area. Where do they pick up? The metropolitan areas. We've got to make sure that we have good, close proximity parking so that these guys can get delivered and it doesn't do them a lot of good to be hours away from delivery or pickup to get rest.
Yeah. And those facilities or those places they park, warehouses, wherever, they have to have facilities. They need to make facilities available to those drivers.
There is a law in Congress. There's a statute in Congress coming up for bill. I'll find out about it more, but it's designed to insist that truck drivers delivering into locations have the right to a bathroom at the facility if they have one.
Wow. I mean, that shouldn't even have to be a law. That should just be common sense.
Oh, but there's a lot of places that don't allow.
Well, I know that, but
you can't use our bathroom.
Yeah, you can deliver to us, but don't come inside.
Don't go in the bathroom. And look, we understand the issues and the problems that's faced with that about cleaning it and supplying it and doing all that. Look, we get it. But you gotta look at the human side of it, right?
Yep. It'll take a while to get done, but we'll keep beating that drum. What else? We got trailer supply.
Yeah, it's still. There was a report out that said trailer demand still continues to be high. Even the demand is still high, even though the supply has gone up a little bit. But demand is still high. So every time trailer gobble up, here you go. November 20 net trailer order units. Look at this. That's in the thousands. And as you can see, 2021 and 2022. You can see how 2022 has spiked over 2021, the lines as ordered to the bar graph. So you can still see demand is up there and people are still going out and basically grabbing those trailers on the orders. So allocation, we're still on allocation for trailers, basically, is what we're saying. And the supply new trailers just hasn't caught up with demand of supply.
No, and it'll take a while too. I mean, just simply because everybody held on to them longer because they couldn't get them, and so now there's more of a rush to it. I mean, it's that whole supply and demand thing.
Oh
right
yeah,
there.
hey, you know what? I didn't get any last year, but I usually get,
Yeah.
So it's going to take a while to catch up. Trailers are a big deal. You can't actually move freight without them.
It's pretty tough.
It's pretty tough to move freight without trailers, and it is going to be done. All right, we'll be back in just a second. As we have a guest here on BCB, it is Heather, and we'll be back right after this on BCB Live.
The safest station in the nation.
There you go. Look at him.
You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. BCB Live covers freight. Here we are now at 21% of record freight being rejected. News down in Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We had another $1.5 million seizure. If ever there's a time to do a pre or post trip, it's if you're doing something wrong. Weather, traffic.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to some traffic and weather with Buckle Up Bob. You can kind of see where the visibility can be compromised a little bit. Again, right where that rain is.
And most importantly, safety.
One of the things that we must do is make sure that safety is the number one thing that we focus on.
Going into an intersection yellow is not the way. That's to clear an intersection, not to enter an intersection.
Tune in weekdays from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch BCB Live through LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe today and follow BCB Live.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. And I have on the line, on the call, and on the show, Heather Jewell, Director of Marketing Strategy at Fusion Now. How you doing, Heather?
I'm doing pretty darn great. It is definitely cold here in Pennsylvania, but I know it's going to get a lot colder since you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, it's coming your way, baby. It's coming your way. It's supposed to be down in the single digits tomorrow morning. I mean, on Friday morning here in Dallas.
Dallas, yeah. I'm personally looking forward to it. I'm from Alaska, so I'm used to the cold, but I know a lot of our country isn't, unfortunately. So. Okay,
I'm going to go right out on a limb.
Uh-huh.
This is not the place where we're used to the cold. I'm just going to tell you that you got guys walking around with cowboy hats and they're all looking around like, what happened outside? We like sunshine. We like it hot. I don't know about you, but that's just the way we like it around it. Dusty.
Dusty. I prefer snow personally. Snow is a lot cleaner than dust, but
it makes it so hard to drive. And it makes it hard to move freight.
Very true.
All right, so tell us what Fusion Now is, Heather, because that's what we want to know. What is Fusion Now?
Of course, yeah. We're a marketing and recruiting firm. We're actually based in Kansas City, but we're a global company now, which is super exciting. We've been in business for about 2 years, and ultimately our job is helping carriers meet their growth goals, whether that be brand goals or just fleet size goals in general.
We've met before. You've been on the show a couple of times. We've met you out at Women in Trucking, and we, had a lot of fun. Let me ask you a quick question. Why do you consider transportation outdated?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned something earlier about the bathrooms, and I think that that's a great place to start. Overall, our industry just isn't as up to date as other industries, whether that be on the recruiting or marketing side, bathrooms, how we treat our employees, how we pay employees. And I think that our standards are just not quite where they need to be for 2022, let alone the fact that we're coming into 2023.
We have we sit here and we talk about it, and there's so much more we could do better, right? I mean, in all honesty, and I'll tell you, it's come from an industry that I've actually been around a long time. The snowball was really rolling slow for a long time. I think a lot has happened, Heather, in the industry over the last few years that has helped us propel this industry forward a little bit. I think, the data that was being collected from ELDs.
Yeah.
I think COVID and shining light on what truck drivers do and how important their role is to getting it done. And everybody in the country also heard much about supply chain issues. I think that became a buzzword to every single person out there. But to what you do and how you do it, how can trucking companies go back to humanizing the hiring process, or creating, instead of this, all this other stuff that the industry is? It's still very important that we still get to the people to get this job done.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I agree that the industry has made great strides since COVID. I think more out of necessity than anything, just to keep people in the industry and also attract new people to the industry. On humanizing the process, specifically hiring process, I think that we really need to just take a step back and walk a mile or drive a mile in our driver's shoes. Specifically, like bringing drivers on as an example, what does their timeline look like? I'm a former recruiter myself. I'm very guilty of trying to push drivers to come into orientation, possibly before they're even ready to come in. I think that carriers can ask drivers just flat out, is there anything that you need to do prior to coming to orientation? Maybe they need to run by their house because they have a honey-do list or something along those lines. And just meeting people in the middle with their needs and recognizing that every driver is different, and the things that they're going to need in order to come into orientation and be hired and start successfully in a new position, that's going to differ for everybody. And just asking some questions and being open to conversation there, I think, can really help humanize everything. And one that I always like to touch on too is, when we're setting drivers up for orientation, typically recruiters are sharing information verbally, and they might send over a quick email with some bullet points, but they're not really laying information out in a visual way. 65% of people are visual learners, so I think another step on humanizing things is just presenting information to drivers in a way that's going to enable them to absorb that information. Every driver talks to dozens of recruiters prior to starting at a company, and having them be able to see information and hear information from multiple different avenues is going to help them know your company as they're starting with you, and ultimately be a little bit more transparent as well.
What's the difference between recruiting well, what you're talking about, and this pushing? Because I mean, I get, I just thought that's part of recruiting. I thought, let's go, let's get them in here, let's line them up, let's bring them on in. I want a line on the way into the orientation room. And really, talk to me about the difference.
Yeah, I think that the difference is, and as a recruiter formerly myself as well, the difference is, one is the company's timeline, one is the driver's timeline. Obviously, there's a place in the middle where we can both meet and have those conversations together. And sometimes the driver's timeline is a lot more sped up even than the company's timeline. But Dave is an example, setting up your onboarding for success, and specifically just orientation for success. New hire retention rates are up 82% according to the Brandon Hall Group if you have a strong onboarding and orientation process. So not rushing things can actually help a lot on the retention side of things, and just making sure that not only you're not rushing things, but it's organized, you have trucks already ready, they're already clean when a driver gets there, and everything along those lines.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And especially, it's not, if I'm coming in and I want my new house ready, right? If this is where I'm coming, I want to make sure that when I walk in the door and I walk out, hey, the first thing I want to look at, what am I driving? Because, go show me my truck. Because that's going to set the standard to where I'm at to begin with right away. Don't you agree? I mean, that's my house. Yeah. That's my house. And
completely
and
agree.
I'm going to tell you, Heather, how much I've been through as a former driver, and having talked to many recruiters in the time back in the day. How many orientations do you think I've actually been through in a 25-year career in this business?
Ooh, that really depends upon the driver. And Dave, I don't know how long you've stayed at carriers, but assuming, if we're looking at today's day and age where drivers are at 2 or 3 jobs in a year, you could have been at 60, 70 different orientations. But with that being said, times have changed a lot, even in just like the last 5 years. So I'm going to throw a number out there. I'm going to say probably 12, because I feel like you probably stay at companies for a while if you like them.
Yeah,
I'm really curious to know,
I think 10. I think 10's a good number.
Okay.
And in that time frame, and you're right. I did stay at a long time at companies. But no matter the case, how much do you think I actually retained while I was in? That's to me, that's one of the things that orientation, there's a lot of data dumped into a person in 2 days that, and I don't mean to say this, Heather, I think it's important that your orientation separate itself from the others, because I can tell you the movies that we watched, they were the same movies that I watched in another, you know what I mean? It's not like they were much different. There were a couple of orientations that did set themselves apart that I can remember back today. And I think those make it better for the drivers.
I agree 100% with that. When I first started in transportation as a recruiter, I had to sit down and watch all the videos that our drivers watch when they onboarded at a carrier that I worked at previously. And it was 2 full days of nothing but sitting in a dark room in orientation class, watching videos. And it was incredibly boring, but also it didn't give me any connection to the company when I first started there. I didn't have really any interaction with people there. And drivers are in such high demand. If a driver sits through that experience and that's their first interaction with your company, they probably aren't going to have a very good thought as far as what things are going to look like after they get into the truck. So I think that streamlining things is really important. Actually going over things in person, not just making people watch videos, is incredibly important. And with that too, if you do have videos that your safety team or your insurance team does want drivers to go over, which I think is completely valid, have them sent out prior to orientation, and then use orientation as the valuable time that it is, and make that a connection period. Make that a time where you're going over your high-level safety goals, anything that's really important about your company, and also just time to connect with the driver. I think I like working from home, and I think that drivers may also agree that doing orientation videos prior to going into orientation on their own time is a lot more comforting than sitting in an uncomfortable chair in orientation watching those videos.
I agree. I think there's so many things that we can get done away from the office. However, Heather, I don't want to ever take away from the opportunity to get to know the drivers on a one-on-one, or, but you don't do that. I think that orientation should be an interactive process. I don't think it should be a movie theater with popcorn and kickback. I don't think that's the idea and the purpose of orientation. I think it's to get to know who you're going to be working with and the people and what they believe. And, because, when you walk in the door, it's important to understand how they feel about the company in a real aspect. And to me, sometimes I think senior drivers need to be available that are with the company. Because I think that might help, maybe to answer some questions.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So some things on top of having drivers available for your new drivers to interview and just ask them questions from, also having your dispatchers either at your orientation location, or at least setting up like a 15-20 minute Zoom call for your dispatcher that's going to be working with that driver to get to know one another, ask questions. I think that's super important, as well as just speaking with the driver, finding out what they like to do, how they like to run, and then relating that obviously back to your company and how you guys run as well. But I think that orientation time is so valuable. And to me, watching videos or just watching a slideshow is a waste of your time, as far as your investment as a company is sending drivers in, and then also just the driver's time as well. You can spend so much more valuable time talking to that driver, getting to know that driver, and ultimately that's going to help your retention down the line, versus doing some of those more compliance related items specifically in orientation. I think try to get as much of that out of the way prior to coming into orientation as possible, or if you do have to do it in orientation, streamline it as much as possible. Make sure that the paperwork that you're sending out is not duplicative, and just present it in a fashionable way as well.
I think a lot of the times we've gotten down to the point where, and I think what I'm going to talk about when you tell a driver, okay, fill out this 1-page sheet on where you'll run, what you're doing, when, and all your everything you want about your whole deal, so that we can run you based upon everything on this 1 page. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I've seen those, yes.
Okay. So I want to know all your running areas. I want to know when you need to be home. I want to know, and I just that's all I need from you, and I got you. I don't think that develops the great relationship that you're talking about. I think
Agreed.
really as a great relationship. I think, Heather, what we're talking about is here establishing good, positive, developed relationships that listen both on each ends and try to, because I'll tell you this, having been done this a long time, Heather, I truly believe that every driver that walks in the door or whatever company it is has their own formula for success for that driver.
Yep.
And if you don't go after that formula with that driver and you don't work to get that formula done, that driver won't be there very long.
Yeah, that is very, very true. I 100% agree with everything that you just said there, Dave.
How do you use data? How do you use new data and here it is, analytics to influence some of your goals? I mean, obviously you have tools to your trade. Well, how do you use some of the new technology, the new analytics to make it better for you in your cost per hire or any other factors?
Yeah, so speaking specifically on retention, since we were just talking on that there, we do a lot of anonymous surveys, a lot of engagement surveys, and just communication with drivers to find out where drivers are turning, why they're having turnover issues at a specific carrier as well. And typically using that information and actually tracking back the numbers, you're going to be able to see what time of the year carriers are experiencing turnover, and then you can find out why they're turning over in that period of time. Likewise, a new hire, if you have a driver and you keep having turnover issues on the second week and it's the day after they get their first paycheck. Maybe it's because they don't understand a couple of the deductions that are listed on their paycheck, and maybe all we need to do is have somebody give them a call and explain, hey, these are the two things that we went over in orientation, but since you've been out of orientation for 2 weeks and this is your first paycheck, you've probably forgotten about, but we want to make sure that you understood this. On cost per hire, lead generation, everything there, what we do a lot of is vendor management here at Fusion Now. So we're taking a look at what vendors are performing for generating leads, but also converting those leads, and how much the cost per hire is by recruiter, but also by vendor. Ultimately, if vendor 1 has a $500 cost per hire and vendor 2 and 3 have a $2,000 cost per hire, we're going to use that information and those analytics in order to move spend to the proper vendor or make sure that we're putting our carrier spend where it's actually going to perform for them. So lots of different things. I could probably go in for hours and talk about all the different things that we track for our carriers and share with our carriers, but we have a whole portal that our clients are able to access and see all of that information live in as well.
Nice. I mean, obviously you have a dashboard up for probably each client so that they can monitor and track those different numbers and stuff like that to make better and make good decisions. Here, you got a great question here, and I wanted to ask it. Why should companies avoid worn-out catchphrases?
Yeah, I
What
mean,
what are those, like, be cool, stay in school? Like, what is a worn-out catchphrase? I'm just...
I mean, industry-leading pay is one of them. Great home time. We treat you like family, or you're not a number, you're a family member, which obviously those are things that we all want to celebrate about a particular company, right? If you do have great pay, we want it to be industry-leading pay. If we treat our drivers like family, we want to emphasize that when we're sharing that with drivers in our advertising. But unfortunately, so many carriers that don't hold true to that have been using those phrases that they honestly build a lot of distrust with drivers now. As an example, and I always like to state this, industry-leading pay. A lot of carriers advertise that they have industry-leading pay, but if you stop at a truck stop and you ask most drivers if they've ever had an industry-leading paycheck, the answer is most likely going to be no, unfortunately. So I think that rather than using some of those catchphrases, what carriers should do, specifically smaller or medium-sized carriers should do, is show the proof behind what they're advertising. So if they truly believe that they have great pay, show how that's impacted your drivers, whether that be a success with somebody paying off their lease purchase truck, or they just bought a new house, or they put their children through college. Celebrate those successes that your current drivers have. Get video interviews of those current drivers and share that as your marketing. And I think that that is going to be a lot more wholesome and a lot more transparent with drivers, and ultimately succeed a lot more with them as well.
Well, I tell you what, Heather, what I'm going to do is go out and get me some actors, and then we're going to draw up some good stuff so that when we videotape them, we will have we were going to get some tears going, Heather. I'm going to make sure that there's tears flowing. But no, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Hey, I think it is, you know, we've heard those catchphrases for 30 years. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just, hey, we'll treat you, this is a family-oriented business. I mean, but why, it should be that already, right? I mean, shouldn't it be, I mean, it should be that already. You should all, when you jump in, you should be treated that way. I agree with you. I think it's important. I think it's important that we do highlight what we do. But I do understand how there might be some distrust out there by drivers looking at some of the things that are promised, right? Because that's all happening.
Very true. Yeah.
Heather, I want to thank you for coming on. Appreciate it. You know, we could talk for an hour probably about any number of things, but I want to thank you for coming in here right here before the holidays. I hope that you have a fantastic Christmas, not a Grinchy one, but a fantastic Christmas. If anybody wants to reach out to you, Heather, what's the best way?
Yeah, honestly, just checking us out on our social media platforms or on our website. You can also give me a call. My direct line, not for giving myself a direct direct phone number on the internet here, but my direct number is 816-280-4071. Feel free to reach out to me or check us out online. We have a lot of different services that we can offer to carriers and drivers as well.
Is that going to be at Fusion Now at?
Yeah, it's fusionnow.io.
fusionnow.io. There you go. That way you can check it out online. You can go there. You can browse it. Everybody can browse the internet all over the world. So you can go out there and you can find out some great information. Hey, Heather, before you get out of here, I always ask our guests, you know the routine. I ask our guests to state their name, who they're with, and that you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Can you do that?
Of course. I am Heather Jewell, Director of Marketing Strategy with Fusion Now, and you're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
Merry Christmas to you and yours, and have a wonderful holidays, young lady.
You as well. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas. All right, there you go. That's Heather setting us straight on what to do and not what to do when you go out there and you get somebody, and to make it last. You're looking for good, positive retention, because if you retain, you don't have to hire as much, right? You don't have to recruit as much. All right, I'll tell you what. Everybody will be back in just a second, because I think safety's got a few things that they want to talk about before we get out of here today. Be right back. Hey, and we are back here on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Hey, just so everybody knows, I have been on a diet for about 4 weeks now. And I've lost 20, yeah, no, it's been 4 weeks.
Okay.
A little, actually 4 weeks and 4 days. So, I've been on a diet. I've lost 20 pounds, but I have not had a soda pop in that entire time. And my buddy, Double Check, brought me a real Coke. This right here, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know what we're talking about, but I took one sip of this, and it was like syrup on pancakes. It was like Ice cream on apple pie. I'm telling you, this is the cat. I haven't had.
I mean, caffeine, carbonation, sugar. What's not to like
Oh
right
my
there,
God!
buddy?
No wonder the bees flock to those flowers for sugar water.
There we go.
I'm right. I mean, that's what hummingbirds. I get it.
Yeah.
I'm on. I get it now. I get it. So let's. What's the safety? We've been talking about holiday tips for driving that can also be applied to every other day, but we're just going to put Christmas bells on it.
And can be applied to any type of vehicle, not just the CMV. You know, we know increased holiday traffic and winter road conditions can be frustrating. But we got to put the safety of everyone first by letting our impatient and aggressive drivers pass you. Slow down at all intersections. Stop if there's a stop sign. You know, take control of the things that you control out there. And so that's today's safe driving tip is we just want to, you know, be patient. That's probably the way to sum today's up is just be patient. If you have aggressive drivers around you, just let those aggressive drivers pass and slow down. Just good, safe driving tips. Don't let, you know, the added traffic, don't let the weather, the conditions get the best of you. Just practice patience out there. Hey, Mr. Producer, let's look at a couple videos this afternoon. Oh, you know, right here, we're just, it's the nighttime. We're too close, and then we jump out, and that driver just jumps right over there, makes that quick, unsafe lane change, gets himself in that same situation of following too close, goes from one lane to the other, quick, impatient lane change. Hey, just slow it down a little bit, increase that space, own the space between you and the vehicle ahead of you, and then just wait for that vehicle to get away from you a little bit. You know, if we're 2 seconds back, the vehicle in the left-hand lane goes past us 2 seconds quicker, and we can make that lane change a whole lot safer. Next one, another nighttime video. You know, we're just a tad below the speed limit, but you know, when we get this close behind a big truck like that, you know, we really impair our vision. We can't see around him, and it's dark, and so they can't see as far ahead, and so we just really have to, you know, get in that mindset. It's nighttime, it's dark, I've got to increase my space, I've got to slow down a little bit more because I can't see as well. So that's what we need to do here. Increase that space, slow down just a little bit more. Yep, here we go again, you know, and we're gaining on them. We just really don't seem to be taking any action here, you know. A lot of trucks come with in-cab coaching, you know, they'll start talking to say you're following too close, increase your space. And the driver may or may not be hearing that in this case, but we take a look at this. We're too close. We're 9/10 of a second away from them. You know, if our human reaction and time the brakes kicks in takes a second to happen, and that car in front of us stops dead, we don't have near the following space and distance that we need. And so we just need to make sure that, you know, we have the right following distance and the right speed to go with it. One last one, and again, you know, it's that nighttime thing. Speed limits, you know, speed's really good. He's got it down well below the speed limit, and so that's not the issue, but we're still too close, so it really doesn't matter what your speed is if you're too close. The two have to work together, have to work in tandem, go hand in hand. Got to have that following distance and got to have the right speed to keep that following distance, and we're just a little bit close right there, and so we need to back off a little bit, and increase our distance and slow our speed a little bit. I think that's our last video for today. Hey, I just want to join, I'd say everybody, you know, thank you for joining us this afternoon on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.